StraightalLday.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to prepare for selling yourself. You want to sell yourself, and all of us need to sell ourselves on some level at some point in life. How do you actually get ready for doing this? There is a process to getting ready. I'll tell you what it is here today. But before we do that, let me tell you all, I send out a text message every morning. I call it the Daily Motivation. That's free of charge to everyone who's in my text community. If you would like to receive this message, it's guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Here's what you do. Text me at this number right now. Pull out your phone. You already got it in your hand. Just open up the text message and text this number, 305-384-6894. And every day when I send out the Daily Motivation, because you are a member of my texting community, you'll be receiving that text every single day. That's all you got to do. Just text me at that number. The link is down below, or the number is down below in the show notes, by the way, if you missed it. Secondly, the best place for you to get to working with me directly, once you are already tuned into listening to this show, is to join me inside of Work on Your Game University. In that university, I'm giving you a real life education on things like mindset, strategies, systems, execution when it comes to your business, your personal development, your professional development, your selling, everything in between. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can see your options for getting started, whether you want to be coached, you want to get access to the courses, you want to get the physical mailings every month. You have options. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. All that said, let's get into the topic, preparing for selling yourself. Now, as I said a minute ago, we all need to sell ourselves at some level, whether we're trying to get a job, a date, you're trying to make a sale, you're trying to get your point across, you want people to listen to your opinion, you want your voice to be heard, or anything else in between. So I'm going to give you some tips here today to get yourself ready for selling yourself if you are about to go and try and sell yourself anywhere. And by the way, every time you walk out of your door every single day, you are selling yourself, whether you know it or not. Whether you know that there are prospects looking at you, they are looking at you. Everywhere you go, you walk into a Starbucks, you're selling yourself, because the way that you present yourself is giving a signal to everyone else in that Starbucks whether or not they should approach you, whether or not they're making inferences about who you are, what you're about, what you may be interested in, and how whatever you're offering or whatever you appear to be offering may be of use to them by the way that you show up on a day-to-day basis. So for example, if I walk into a Starbucks wearing some sneakers, some shorts, a jersey tank top, and I had a basketball in my hands and a headband on, what are people going to infer? That this guy looks like an athlete. Somebody might approach me if they like playing basketball. They might ask me, hey, where's the best place to get a good pickup game around here? Because I'm selling myself as someone who looks like a basketball player. If I walk in there wearing what I'm wearing right now, I have on a suit and a tie and some dress shoes, then somebody might think that I'm some type of businessman. They may ask me a question about business because I'm presenting myself as that. So the way that you show up in life, even if you don't say anything to people, you are selling yourself. And again, other people will see in you whatever is going on in their mind mixed with whatever you decide to present yourself as. So this does matter. So here are some tips for how to sell yourself, since, as I just told you, you are doing this every single day, whether you are aware of it or you're doing it on purpose or not. Point number one, we're talking how to prepare for selling yourself. Number one, be confident. Now this one sounds easy, right? Just be confident. Is it that easy, Dre? No, it is not that easy, but it is this simple. Let me explain to you how you can be confident. This confidence that I'm referring to is sourced from competence. Confidence comes from competence. And competence is sourced from you knowing that you have done the preparatory work, and in knowing that what you are offering to the world is valuable, useful, and relevant to your target audience. That's where the competence comes from. So I talk about doing your homework in episode 1925. And I've talked about preparation in more episodes than I am even going to list here on the show. But let me list episode 1355. I talked about the preparation is the separation. Also, episode number, let me give you another one about preparation. Episode 1003, how to prepare to play off of instinct. And also episode 567, if you are not over prepared, you are under prepared. That's where the competence comes from. You want to feel competent, meaning you know your stuff. Just know that you've done the work. I talk about this all the time. Discipline creates confidence. The discipline of doing your homework, of being prepared ahead of time, makes you competent. And because you are competent, you have earned the right to be confident. And when you are confident, people can read that off of you, and they have a certain perception of you because of the way that you show up. That confidence can be felt. Confidence is not something that you talk about. It's not something that you say. It is something that people feel. They notice it. They get that aura from you that you are confident because of the way that you show up, because of the work that you have done ahead of time. Everybody get it? And this is knowing exactly who you are targeting, by the way. So when it comes to selling yourself, if you're selling yourself intentionally, that means you have a specific target in mind. Who are you trying to sell? Who's your prospect? Because you may not be trying to sell the whole world. You might sell somebody without even trying, even though you're not angling for them by the way that you show up. But if you know exactly who you're targeting, you need to know that what you're offering is useful, relevant, and valuable to them. So the further points in today's class will explain how you can start doing your homework on whoever you're targeting so you can be as competent as possible, which leads to you being confident. Remember that most communication, everybody, is non-verbal. People do not buy what you say, they buy how you say it and the way that they feel about your style of communication. So it's not really your words that make the sale, it is your energy and your style that make the sale. And your energy and your style infect your words. So a lot of people get this backwards. They think, all right, let me get the right script of exactly what I'm going to say, the words. And when I have the right script, then I feel real confident about how I'm showing up and all of that. And then they think that's the way that the sale happens. No, what actually happens the other way is you do your homework ahead of time, which may include getting a general feel of what you're going to say. But it's the energy and the aura of confidence that you have from knowing that you've done the preparatory work and that you've done your homework. That leads to a certain energy, which allows you to talk however you want to talk. You'll say things off the cuff that you weren't even planning on saying. They go completely off your script, but because of your energy and the way that you say it, that's what makes the sale, okay? So it is not your script that sells anything. So even though there are businesses out there and organizations out there that do have sales scripts, and if you work with one, you should follow the script unless you want to get fired. Follow the script. But it's your confidence in the way that you show up. Your confidence in you is what makes that script work. It's not the script that makes you work. It's you that makes the script work. Doesn't mean don't follow the script. Have a process. I mean, I'm a person who talks about strategies and processes all the time. So I'm not saying don't have a process, but don't think that the process is going to make you. It's you make the process. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to prepare for selling yourself. Know your target and be relevant. I told you I was going to talk about this, so here it is. What this means is you need to know exactly to whom you are selling, and based on knowing who you're selling to, choose the right points about yourself or your offer that speak directly to the needs and desires of your chosen target or prospect. Now, what does all that mean? I'll give you a metaphor here. Just think about your life and everything that you have accomplished. Think of it as a library or a big bookshelf. Maybe if your life hasn't been that long or you don't feel like you have that many accomplishments, maybe you got a bookshelf and not a whole library. But either way, same metaphor. The different things that you have done, experienced, the things you know, the insights you had, the things you have accomplished, they're all different books on the shelves of your bookshelf or den or library, okay? And when you're choosing to target a specific person or a specific audience, your conversation with that person needs to be coming out of a specific book from your library that is relevant to them. Not everything that has occurred in your life is relevant to the person who you're trying to sell. So if I'm talking to an audience of basketball players, there are certain books in my library that I should emphasize over other books in my library. Whereas on the other hand, if I'm talking to an audience of business professionals, entrepreneurs, people who never played basketball, there are certain books that I should pull off the shelf instead of the books that I pulled off for the basketball players. There's a different set of books I'm going to pull off the shelf depending on who I'm talking to. Different experiences that I'll talk about. If I'm talking to athletes, I'm going to probably emphasize a lot my background in sports and in playing sports and all the things I went through and the things that I thought about. And I'm going to emphasize those things because that's what they can relate to. Now, if I'm talking to but I will also mention probably at some point the fact that I'm also an entrepreneur. Now, if I'm talking to an audience of entrepreneurs, I will mention the fact that I played basketball, but I'm not going to go as deep into that. Why? Because it's not as relevant to them. I'm going to spend more time emphasizing my background in entrepreneurship because that's more relevant to that audience. So if I'm trying to sell myself to a specific audience, I got to think about where they are, who they are, what they're about, what they're looking for, and I'm going to take the pieces of my experience, the books off my shelf that are relevant to them, or at least that I gauge are most relevant to them, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So when it comes to selling yourself, this is something that you need to do. This is part of everybody doing your homework. Again, that homework episode is episode 1925. Knowing your target, being relevant to your target means doing your homework. You got to know who your target is. Know who your audience is. When I go and do a speaking gig somewhere, one question that I always ask the decision maker, the person who is contacting me to come speak, is who is your audience? Who's in the audience? Who's your target audience? What do you want the audience to get from somebody like myself standing on the stage? When I appear on somebody's podcast or I go get interviewed by somebody, I ask them, who is your target audience? Who's your ideal listener to this show? Because it helps me understand what parts of my story, because they usually ask me, where'd you come from? Who are you? How'd you get here? It's not like I'm world famous when I go on these shows. So I'm giving my background and introducing myself. I need to know who their target audience is, so I know what parts of my story I want to emphasize. So when I'm talking to someone whose show is based around, let's say, fitness or sports, then I tell more of the story of my basketball background. But when I'm talking to someone that's more business focused, I tell more of the story of my business background. And sometimes, let's say if it's personal development focused, I talk about both business and basketball, but I'm emphasizing, instead of just talking about the specific basketball stuff that I did, like I made this dunk or this three-pointer, no, I emphasize the personal development stuff that I gleaned from basketball and that I gleaned from business, and I focus on those pieces. So you could take the same experience and pull different pieces out of it. So there's certain pieces of, when it comes to basketball, I can pull out the fitness side, I can pull out the business side, I can pull out the relationship side, I can pull out the personal development side. It depends on who I'm talking to. What piece do I want to extract from that? So this is why you need to know your background and your selling points really well, so that you know what parts you want to pull out depending on who you're talking to. Is everybody following me here so far? So you want to make sure that whatever you're using is speaking directly to the needs and desires of your chosen target or prospect. So your library is you just knowing your own background. In other words, knowing your own background, knowing what parts of your background matter to another person. So this is homework, folks. Listen to episode 1925. Do your homework. There is a lot to you in your life. If you're 25, 27, 43 years old, you can't tell 43 years of life story when you're talking to a person. They ain't got time for that. All they want are the relevant parts that matter to them. So what are the relevant parts for your audience? You need to know this and show up ready with those relevant parts. So as I already said, if I'm talking to basketball players, I'll pull out the basketball stuff. If I'm talking to business people, I'm gonna pull out more of the business stuff. So whatever is relevant to that particular audience, that's what I'm gonna emphasize and focus on. This is why, and this is especially true for those of you who are gonna be in the influencer / thought leadership space, where you are the product, you are the business, you are the thing that everybody's gonna see. You need to know your story inside and outside. You need to know different angles of your story. You need to mine through your story, basically like drill through your story and figure out what parts of my story are really relevant to a specific audience. And when you know exactly who you would like to target, generally speaking, you need to know what parts of that story you want to be sharing over and over again, so that you can tell that same story, whatever it is, over and over and over and over again. Because you're going to be telling your story forever if you're in the thought leadership / influencer space. You're going to be telling the same story over and over again, and you don't want to get bored with it, even though you're going to be saying the same thing over and over. And remember that the people who are listening to you are hearing it for the first time, whereas you may be hearing it for the 10,000th time. But you need to know what that story is, and that story is going to cause people to connect with you much more than your information or even the stuff that you are offering or selling. So knowing that story matters a whole lot. Knowing every chapter of your story, knowing which books of your story you want to pull out, and you want to have those things ready. So when you get asked a question, you can pull out a story that is relevant from your background that relates to what somebody else is asking about. The better you can do that, the better you will be able to sell. Trust me. Is that point number 1 or point number 2? Point number 3. Next one is point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to prepare for selling yourself. Number 3. As Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, when you know the opponent and know yourself, in 100 battles, you will never be in peril. What does all that mean? That means the better you know who you are selling yourself to, the easier it will be to actually make the sale, because you will be prepared ahead of time. And this is not only the tangible part of being prepared ahead of time, but it's also the confidence and the peace of mind that comes with knowing that you've done the preparatory work ahead of time. When I know I've done the prep work for anything that I'm about to do, I feel extremely confident in what I'm doing. Why? Because I already know I've done the work. and my subconscious mind is confident, that means it's completely relaxed. I can give my energy away. I don't have to be self-conscious. I can be outwardly conscious and focus on the audience and focus on the people to whom I am delivering, or whoever I'm serving, or whoever I'm sharing with, because I don't have to worry about myself, because I know I'm good. I know I've done the work already. That's why you need to know yourself. That means you need to know who you're serving, who you are targeting, so you don't have to worry about that at all. All you got to do is go out there and deliver. And that energy, that confidence, that comes through. People can read that. Again, I said this already. People can read that coming off of you all the time. So one challenge that many people display when it comes to selling themselves is focusing way too much on what you get and what you want in the process, instead of focusing on what the person you're selling gets and what they want. And again, you can't focus on what they want if you are too focused on yourself. You're too self-conscious about, what am I getting? What do I get out of this? If you know you've done the prep work, all right, you don't have to do anything else. The work's already been done. Doesn't mean everything's always going to turn out the way it's supposed to, but if you've done the work ahead of time, there's nothing else you need to do thought-wise to get ready. To give you an example of this, there was a story of this wrestler by the name of Triple H. I don't think he wrestles anymore. But he told this story. I heard him being interviewed once, and he was in Vegas to see a boxing match, and Floyd Mayweather was fighting this particular night, and Triple H knows Floyd, so Floyd sent for Triple H to come back to the locker room before the fight. Triple H had his wife with him, so he and his wife go back to the locker room and meet Floyd, and they're hanging out and Floyd's about to go out and fight, and Triple H sees the countdown timer on the wall. He sees about 30 minutes left on the countdown timer. He's like, well, we're gonna get out of here, because Triple H is thinking what he does before his performances. He needs everybody away from him so he can get mentally in the right space to go out and perform. So he figures Floyd's the same way, but Floyd says, no, I'm good. Just stay here and chill. You can watch TV with me. And Triple H is like, all right, man, cool. So they hang out, they're watching TV, and then Triple H looks at the clock again. He notices only 15 minutes on the clock before Floyd needs to go out, and he's fighting for his championship belt that night, and there's only 15 minutes before he has to go out to the ring. And Triple H is like, this is like, to him, it would be an emergency if he wasn't, getting in his zone before the fight. So Triple H is like, all right, well, let me get out of here, because I know you need to get ready for the fight. But Floyd, and Triple H said, Floyd kind of got a little annoyed with him and said, look, man, if I'm not ready to win this belt right now, there's nothing I'm going to do in the next 15 minutes that's going to get me ready to win it. Or if I'm not ready to win this fight right now, he already had the belt, but if I'm not ready to win this fight, nothing I'm going to do is going to make me ready to win the fight. And Triple H said, all right, man, cool. And Floyd went out and he did win the fight. The whole point being that the preparatory work that you do ahead of time, doing your homework, prepares you to be fully confident when it's time to go out there and perform. You don't have to be doing any last minute things to get yourself ready. That's why you get ready ahead of time. That's why you do your homework. So you gotta, when you know what the other person wants, you know what you're gonna get, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You just focus on giving to them. And as Zig Ziglar said, you give other people what they want, you get everything that you want. This is a challenging skill to master if you don't have this ability already, but it can be mastered. And once you do master it, it is much easier to make sales when you understand that you know you've done your work and you already know what the other person who you're dealing with, what they want, and you can focus completely on that. You put all your focus on one thing. And remember that focus is a force multiplier. The longer you stay focused on any one thing, the stronger your abilities come in that area. I talked about focus being a force multiplier in episode 1193. So you have to be able to step out of the frame of thinking about yourself and stepping into the frame of thinking about the person to whom you are looking to make a connection or a sale. The better, the longer, and the stronger you do that, the better you will be at selling anything, including yourself. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is how to prepare for selling yourself, since we all need to sell ourselves on some level, and we all are doing this every day, even unconsciously. Point number one, be confident. Confidence is sourced from competence, and competence is sourced from having done your homework, the preparatory work of knowing that what you're offering is useful, value, and relevant to your target audience, and keeping in mind that most communication is nonverbal. It is not the words you say, it is how you show up and how you say things. Number two, knowing your target audience and being relevant to them. That means pulling from your library of information about yourself or whatever you're selling, what is relevant to the person to whom you are selling. That means you need to know your audience and you need to know yourself. You need to know both, so that anything that you need to pull out, you can pull out. And anything that you're missing, maybe you can go get, or you can figure out how to make that connection. And number 3, know the opponent and know yourself. And in 100 battles, you will never be in peril. Sun Tzu said that in The Art of War. One challenge that many people display when it comes to selling is focusing too much on what you get and what you want, instead of focusing on what the other person gets and what they want. And that's a conflict when you're trying to hold both thoughts in your head at the same time. So stop thinking about what you get and what you want. Don't worry about that. You already have done that prep work. All you need to focus on is one thing: what you can give the other person. When you give another person what they want, they will be more than willing to give you everything and more of what you want. So only focus on that, remembering that focus is a force multiplier, and you cannot divide focus between more than one thing. If you're focused on more than one thing, you're not focused on anything. So choose one thing to focus on. Focus on how do you serve that person who you're dealing with, or those people you are dealing with. When you serve them at a high level, they will serve you back without you even trying. All that said, text me. Tell me the best insight you got from today's class. My number is 305-384-6894. And go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Get into my Sell Yourself course. Yes, I have a course called Sell Yourself inside of Work on Your Game University that speaks directly to the things we're talking about here today. It dovetails with the Work on Your Game system process. It's all about the 9 steps that you need to develop your game, show your game, and collect the return on investment, i.e. getting paid for your game. All of that is inside of Work on Your Game University. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and get started. Work on your game. Dre all day.